Havoc.
News, interviews, and more.
We just reek of Huntsville Havoc hockey.
We're back with another Reekin Havoc podcast. I'm Tim Lambert. We're also back after a couple of weeks with a special return guest, just in time for the end of Hocktober. Nutkevitch, whose jersey will go into the rafters at the BBC this Saturday. We've also got the return of Coach Stu Steffens' pick of the pack, along with another of Huntsville's greatest hits and updated announcements. All this week on the Reekin Havoc podcast.
The Reekin Havoc podcast.
One of the worst feelings you can have is that of being stranded. Well, BT's towing, tire, and truck repair makes that a thing of the past, with 24/7 towing services and roadside assistance in the northern Alabama and southern Tennessee areas. But that's not all. They also offer truck and trailer repair, mobile welding, brake service and repair, new and used tires, and other major and minor repairs. Their name says it all, BT's Towing, Tire, and Truck Repair. For 24/7 response, call 497-8234. That's 497-8234. BT's Towing, Tire, and Truck Repair.
Athens Utilities comprises Athens Electric, Athens Gas, and Athens Water Services. Together, we are committed to providing reliable and affordable electricity, natural gas, and water and wastewater services. We operate as part of the City of Athens, and just like our city's motto of Athens is classic, Southern, character, we believe in supporting what makes our community special. Call 233-8750. Come by our office at 508 South Jefferson Street or look for the link online at athensal.us.
Got something to say? Put it on a t-shirt, or hoodie, or apron, or even an iPhone case. Just go to daddyoscustomtees.com and make it happen. Look through their selection of ready-made designs, or make one of your own. Check out their special hockey designs, too. With Daddy O's Custom Tees, you can truly have it your way. Look for Daddy O's Custom Tees on Facebook, follow them on Twitter or Instagram, or go online to daddyoscustomtees.com. That's DADDYOS Custom TEES.com. Daddy O's Custom Tees. They've got your back or front.
Let's go in the slot.
Well, hockey fans, we are back with another In the Slot chat this week. We have another special treat. We have Cy Nutkevitch with us. While we've already had Cy on the show before, we wanted to bring him back because this coming up weekend at the Von Braun is going to be a pretty special time for him and for all of us as Havoc fans that have enjoyed his career. We are going to see his number, his jersey retired and hung up in the rafters of the VBC. So we are all looking forward to that. Cy, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us and come back on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So what have you been up to lately? That's the question all of us want to hear and know.
So in the winters, basically from September 1st to about May 30th, I work for a hockey agency, sort of director of player development. So I spend quite a bit of time like on the road. I'd say like 95% of my time is like spent watching the agent I work for, his players, like whether he's their like advisor or full-time agent, wherever they're playing, his top 20 clients, like I'll go watch them play games and I'll wait for them after, talk to them, tell them things I like, things I don't like, see how things are going, see if there's anything they want to talk about, anything for me to help or look into. And then I'll also spend probably about, go to a couple tournaments with him to try and help find new players and identify players that we think can like go far in hockey.
So is this your new career pathway? Is this kind of what life is becoming for you in retirement?
Yeah, for the most part. I think like my summers are different. My summers, I'd say from the middle of June till the end of August, I'm like on the ice probably 20, 25 hours a week, Monday through Friday, teaching skills on the ice, whether it's practices, individual skills. Sometimes it's private lessons, sometimes small groups, sometimes full team practices. Like in the summer it varies, but for the most part, September 1st to May 30th is that's what it's about. Going around, traveling, watching games.
And where all are you traveling at? Are we talking all over the country? Are you out of the country? What are we looking at?
So, like last season, I did Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Boston twice, Moncton 3 times, Halifax once, and then a bunch regionally in Quebec.
So these players that you're being able to see on the road, on the ice, things you like, things you don't like, what are some of the things that you are seeing maybe consistent now with some of these guys that are out there playing that's kind of new, maybe you've not seen before, things that they're getting better at, things that have changed that you can see are changing the game up?
Well, I think there's like some of it is like the lower the systems, the coaches, what they're being asked. I also think like there's like a little bit of like a skill infusion, but like still everyone wants to go one-on-one, like in all sorts of like all three zones, or whether it's a zone entry, a zone exit through the neutral zone. And there's a lot of like one-on-one play that I think needs to get like just a little bit brought in a little bit to pick and choose their spots a little bit. But for the most part, depending on the level of play I'm watching, if I'm watching non-professionals, a lot of it is just trying to talk to the guys about trying to create habits that I think are going to translate to the next level. Because I just think there's certain things that like you need to be able to do if you want to play professional hockey. So just trying to get that through to them like at a younger age, and trying like if you're a guy who's getting over a point per game now in junior hockey or prep school or college, okay, that's great. But now while things are going good for you, let's work on some of the things that maybe your deficiencies or some things that may need to be worked on for when you go play professionally, and not just wait till you get to the professionals and now it's a problem. And then it's like a little bit of a wake up call to how do I fix this now? So
what are some of those habits you think they need to start working on? Like tough love it.
I would say like puck support is definitely one. Wall play, like the ability to pick pucks off the walls if I'm a defenseman or winger, or, even in the offensive zone when pucks get released to me, like first touch. I would say that the two main things for me would be puck support and first touches.
So when you were a young one coming up and learning all this stuff too, did you ever have issues with some of that? I mean, how did you craft yourself to become as good as you have become in the hockey rink? What were some of those habits that you had to work on yourself?
I think that's a good question. I think a little bit is like, I was always maybe a little bit lucky that one of the better parts of my game was like hockey IQ. And I had a little bit of an understanding of how the game was played and what my strengths were and what I needed to do to accomplish those things. I also think one thing that helped me is like I still watch a ton of NHL hockey, and I think when I was younger I watched a lot of hockey also. And I think that's got lost a little bit with the youth. They're into other things, and that's great. But like you really do learn a lot by watching some of the tendencies of the best players in the world. And then I would say I also had like a father who was pretty keen on letting me know when he thought something needed to be adjusted in my game when I was younger.
And I love that you mentioned this idea of hockey IQ, because just sitting here listening to you, it's just you're resonating with just so much knowledge. I mean, just you seem so extremely intelligent when it comes to talking about this guy. It's just fluid and easy for you to talk about this. What do you think has kind of made that become something so easy for you in your life? I mean, I'm just enamored sitting here listening to you talk just so smoothly about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, like I love hockey and I have a passion for hockey. I think also like as I've gotten, like I'm not a big breakdown video guy. I'm more of like a talking about hockey, listening to what people have to say, going about it like that, taking in their information. Like even if I think someone may be wrong about something, I still like to hear them out, to hear like their thought process. And then I just think as I've gotten into this like job a little bit the last year and a half now, like there's obviously much more conversations that are being had with parents or players or the person I work for or anyone in the arenas where you're bouncing ideas or sharing your opinions or giving your own scouting report. And I think like over time, maybe now I've just come a little even more comfortable talking about it.
Well, this weekend coming up, you're going to be back in Huntsville. Are you looking forward to that? When's the last time you've been here?
No, definitely. I haven't been there since I left. When we lost in the playoffs, I think I was there for 2-3 weeks after, and then I haven't been back to Huntsville since. I was in Nashville for Ty's wedding 2 months ago, but not.
Yeah. So interesting. I was thinking about this earlier. We have a really good problem with the Havoc that we're having to retire jerseys. Like I was thinking about how many jerseys we're going to have hanging up in the rafters now. We're about to add yours to that group. What a good problem to have in a hockey group, in a hockey team, that we have so many legendary and really good players that have come through the program that we honor that with them. I mean, has it really sunk in that no one is ever going to don a Havoc uniform with that number on it ever again?
I would say sunk in. No, not from that part. I do think like I'm pretty proud, of the accomplishments that like as an individual, but also that the team was able to accomplish while I was there. Or, obviously it wasn't just me that played with some good players. I think when I first got there, there was like 3 individual numbers up there and 1 team banner. And then I think now we're like, who knows? I know there's 3 team banners. I think we're going to be up to like 7, maybe even 8 now of individual banners. So I think the organization itself has, gotten lucky with some great players who have come, who are also great people, and everyone has enjoyed their time in Huntsville and stayed there and become friends, and sort of, like turned into what it's become up there now with all the banners.
Well, was having your jersey retired something that you thought might happen, or that selfish plug that you really wanted to happen? I mean, it's okay to say that.
Listen, I think it's a great achievement. I think I would say I'm happy that it's happening because like you put a lot of work into it and a lot of effort over the 7 years there. So it's great to be recognized, and that's going to be acknowledged. I think, is it something that I thought about while I was playing? No, not really. Was I aware towards the end of my career about some records with the team personally and in the league? Yes, I was aware. So because I was aware of those records, then it crossed my mind a couple of times, but like it was never a goal of mine going into a season or playoffs or a game to think like, oh man, like I got to do this so I can get that.
Well, in terms of records, you hold the team records in goals, which is 115, assists, 256, and then points, 371. I mean, those are really good. I would say lucky lottery numbers if you play the lottery, if you want to go there. But those stats alone, I mean, I know there was a team behind you. I know that it wasn't always just yourself working on that, but you put a lot of hard work and time into that. I mean, when you resonate those stats, what do you think about?
What do I think about? I'm very proud of them. It's like that hockey cliche where it's a team sport, but there's individuals in the team that have to like do their job and play their role if the team wants success. So, at times, I'm sure to be selfish about this or selfish about that, but it's always tough when that's sort of what you're looked upon to do. I think the points one is a lot of points for the SPHL, so I'm pretty proud of that one. I think the goals one will be broken one day. Records are made to be broken, and like I never really considered myself a goal scorer. Like I'm more of a playmaker. Like I look to pass first, pass second, shoot third. Maybe I started to shoot a little bit more towards the, the last 2-3 years there. But I definitely am proud of the assists and the points one. And I think the goals one is it's a surprising one to me.
I love that you acknowledge that records are meant to be broken. I heard someone in the hockey field talking about records one time and about how their records got broken and they were excited to be able to call up the next guy that broke it because it was, it showed how the game would progress, how people were getting better and it was still important. So what do you have to say maybe in the future to that person who may listen to this one day that may actually break that goals record or that assist record, or who knows, that points record?
Well, I think honestly, my thoughts for each record would probably be a little bit different. Maybe that's weird, but I think the points one, I would tell the person congratulations on your longevity, because that one takes consistently, I don't want to say greatness because I'm calling myself great, but it takes a lot of good seasons in a row of heavily stacked points to get there. So there's longevity in there. You've persevered through things. There's a lot to that one. I think the goals one, it would be congratulations on that, because I think that's a lot of times that's the hardest thing to do in hockey is, put the puck in the net. And then the assist one, I'm just, I think the assist one could be done by a defenseman. It could be done from a multitude of different people. I think assists a lot of times get a little bit overlooked or overshadowed sometimes by the goals, and that because like I mentioned, goal scoring is the hardest thing to do. But a lot of times, the first assist or the second assist leads to that guy who puts the puck in the net, or even in hockey, the third assist that we don't count. A lot of times there's multiple plays that lead to scoring a goal. So I think it's nice that the assist gets acknowledged also. I
love that you mentioned that the hardest part of it sometimes is just making the goals. And yet here you are with 115 with the lead record on that. But it is hard. It's very much precision. It's very much timing. It's very much being in that moment. Take us into some memories maybe of some of those goals that you can remember, maybe one or two or something that stands out to you in your career with the Havoc.
Yeah, I think a lot of them come on the VBC arena just because of the atmosphere and the juice of playing in the arena and the fans in the city. I think I scored one in the playoffs against Mississippi in Game 3, shorthanded at home in the first round, the year we won the first championship. And I just think that one was it was a good goal, blocked a shot, won a foot race, faked the goalie out, put it in the net, pretty big celebration. I think that one from an individual one was I definitely remember that one. I think Stu giving me a cross-ice pass in Peoria and then to skate it and shoot it into an empty net that sealed us, that gave us a 2-goal lead in Peoria for that championship. Also, that same playoff round is up there. And then I think there's a couple in the VBC that when it got loud, that was really special. I think obviously the one when I broke the record, I knew that one was there. There's the shootout goal against Peoria for the points record. I think I was nice that a lot of the records when I was aware because there was a lot of talk. I don't say a lot of talk, but there was talk about it and stuff like that. I was always eager to get them out of the way a little bit, and it was nice when it happened. In Huntsville at the VBC with the fans, with my teammates in the locker room afterwards, and everything that goes with it.
Well, I can remember watching you during that time, and during a lot of those, we had just started coming as a family to the VBC and watching Havoc and watching hockey, and our son was getting really involved, and he knew that if Cy went out there, it was he had this full faith in you that there was going to be a goal made or something good was going to happen. And so it was always a delight to me as a parent to see my kid who doesn't know you don't know him, but there's this one magical connection he would have when he would see you out there on the ice. And I can remember a few of them were in overtime and shootouts, and stuff. And so we always knew that if Cy could get out there, he'd get it done for the team. So that was always a fun memory for us. So I want to ask you about, okay, sometimes we like to talk about the things that, we do really well as players and as coaches, but what are the things that you have felt over your career that you really had to always work on? Some weaknesses that throughout your professional career, you always had to work on those things. They always kind of dug at you, and maybe you weren't the best at this or that, but what were some of those weaknesses that you worked on?
I think it would depend if it was summer or in season. I think summer a lot of times was just the skating and my edge work. Cause I wouldn't say that, not that I'm a bad skater, but I'm not I wasn't the prettiest skater, but my edges or linear crossovers, I just tried to make sure that I can do a lot of what would be asked of me out there. If I wasn't going to be great, I needed to be able to do a lot of different things. I definitely think once I got to Huntsville, realized how I scored my goals. So I started working on that a lot more in Huntsville. And then towards the last 3 years, during COVID, there was just nothing to do when we came back to Montreal. So I was shooting pucks all the time with my dad and my uncle and my cousins. And I think that helped a little bit on my shot. And then it translated, I think, the last couple of years onto the ice. I was able to start working on that in practice and in the summers to try and score goals from further out.
We'll be back with more of the Reekin Havoc podcast.
Time now for the Huntsville Havoc Pick of the Pack, a weekly spotlight.
Head coach Stuart Steffen.
Noah Finstrom, number 13, forward for us. First weekend, had a really good weekend, scored the overtime winner in Birmingham. Had another goal that weekend, and he's come in here. We've liked him right from the beginning of training camp. Just a really skilled player, skates really well, but also has a lot of good intangibles, kind of gets after pucks and hunts and works hard. So, he's made a really good first impression on us, obviously, and I think he's already kind of grown into a bigger role. He's a kid that's familiar with the area, played at UH for 1 year there, the last year before they folded, and then moved on to Stevens Point, a Division III school, where we've gotten a lot of players too. So kind of keeping the pipeline going, and then coming in here, he's had a really good start, and we're really excited for him moving forward. Again, like I said, extremely skilled player, still working on some of his other parts of his game, but he's definitely made a good first impression.
The Reekin Havoc podcast will be right back.
My name is Joel, and I came to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in December of 1987 to be treated for osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer. We didn't know anything about St. Jude. We didn't know what they meant, or that, when we got here, what we would do, how it would be taken care of. And when we arrived, we found out that my family wasn't going to have to pay for any of my treatment, not for my medicine, not for travel, not for housing, not for food. St. Jude was going to cover all that. St. Jude supported me in every way, from, taking that financial burden off my parents to making sure that all of my family was included in this time. St. Jude literally means everything to me. I get to go home to my family tonight. I get to cook dinner for them. That's what you're giving. You are giving us everything by supporting St. Jude, so thank you so much.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Want to howl with the Havoc this season? Now's your chance from Applebee's Tailgate Talk and the Reekin Havoc podcast. Just go to ReekinHavoc.com and click on Howl with the Havoc to register and listen to Tailgate Talk on Saturday mornings as we announce the winners of Huntsville Havoc tickets. Howl with the Havoc this season from the Huntsville Havoc, Tailgate Talk, and the Reekin Havoc podcast.
This is John Gibson, and you're listening to the Reekin Havoc podcast.
So we had a couple of fan questions that came in. One I thought was really interesting. And now that you are definitely a former player, would love to hear the scoop on this one. Which barn outside of Huntsville, so not Huntsville, but what was another place that you enjoyed playing at? And where was one barn that you really hated having to go to?
Well, that's tough because if you say having to go to, does that mean getting on the bus or that means just playing in the venue?
Oh, okay. Look, the bus rides are really crappy, I know. So
it changes my perspective.
Yeah, so totally get that.
If you're going to ask me, it's obviously all the ones that were far. Like Fate, I had personally good success there in Fayetteville. I liked the ice. I liked the arena. Like it was a big ice surface, but like getting there, it wasn't really for me. Same thing with like Quad City. It's a beautiful building, but it's far to get to.
Yeah. So I guess in terms of playing in a barn, what barn were you not as happy to play in?
I think I would say Quad City a little bit, maybe just because I felt like one side it was weird because there's fans behind the net on one side and not fans on the other. And that side that we would score on 2 out of the 3 times always felt like a little bit smaller. And also from when I played there when I was in the CHL, like there's like these wooden panels under the ice. It always made like a funny sound.
That's interesting that you bring that up because you don't think about how every barn is different. I mean, it was always like we go to the Von Braun, it's a completely different experience than going down to Pelham where the Bulls play. The fans are sitting differently. Everything's different. How much of that difference in each barn really impacts your game each time?
Well, I think from an individual standpoint, I would say I try to not to allow it to have that big an impact just by mentally being prepared for that going in advance. I think from a team aspect, I think it'd be foolish to say like it doesn't have, like you're still playing hockey, you still have to do the same things. But the truth is like shooting a puck from the hash marks at the VBC is not the same thing as shooting a puck from the hash marks in Knoxville, right? So yeah. You have much less time in playing in Knoxville or in Birmingham or even Roanoke to a certain extent, then you go play in places like Peoria or Fayetteville, where Peoria is a tough team. Like they're in your face. It's hard to play, but it's a big ice surface. Fayetteville, sometimes it felt like you were playing on a lake out there, it's massive.
Yeah.
So I think from an individual standpoint of just like understanding what needed to be done and executed in each rink to have success.
Okay. And then someone asked, they wanted to know, other than the championship seasons, what was probably one of your most memorable moments in your Havoc career? And I'm going to tell you to think about that, not including all these records you made. So if you throw your records out, you throw out the championships, what is that kind of core memory that stands out?
Well, I think a little bit the friendships. I would say if we're going to talk hockey, but without the championship, I'm really proud of the season I put up my second to last year in Huntsville, the player I was and the teammate I was and the human being I became maybe during that whole year process. So I would say if we're going to take away the individual accolades and all that stuff, I would probably say that year as a whole.
What do you mean by that? The human being that you became? Did you work on yourself a lot? Like, what do you mean by that?
No, I didn't work on myself. I just think I was who I was, and I was, I knew my strengths and my weaknesses as a player and as a person. And I think, everyone, I don't want to say grows up at a different point. I just think for whatever reason during that year, I became maybe I evolved a little bit to a little bit more open and a little more, not free spirit, but just a little bit more easier going. And I think it was a benefit for me, maybe some other teammates, the coaches, everyone who maybe was in contact with me on a day-to-day basis.
So have you had an opportunity? We're just in the first couple of games of the season. Have you seen those games? Been able to see your teammates, watch those? Have you?
No, I haven't seen any games. I still follow the Havoc on Twitter, so every now and then they'll post like a highlight of someone's goal.
Yeah.
I saw Fish's little backhand wrap around last weekend at home.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, but I'm in contact with quite a few people, but at the same time, like I watch with my job, I watch quite a bit of hockey. So a lot of times, like if there's highlights or just mostly the goals, like I'll click on it and I'll watch the goals play out.
Well, I asked that because I was curious. And I'm kind of glad you've not really watched it, even though it's just started. Because I'm curious about like your perspective about what you think the team is going to really, have to work for this year. I mean, you know how it ended, you know how everything kind of, ended last season. So what does that look like then?
Well, I think it's a little different. Like I talk to Ty still regularly, probably multiple times a week. Like I saw Stu at Ty's wedding. Like I know a little bit of how they're thinking and like what they're feeling. Also, I think they have a lot of forwards that came back. I think the biggest thing is like you can't go fast forward right to the playoffs and make up for or not make up, but try and correct the loss, to Peoria in the finals, right? It's a new season. It's a new process. Like you have to build this team going forward so you can lead into, being your best in the playoffs. And from the Havoc have done a great job of like identifying players and bringing in players that fit the style of play that they want to play, especially with the forwards. And I think they've done a great job of that. And I just think it's just like a little bit of unity and like understanding how to play and playing together and getting used to people's tendencies and all that stuff. And then I don't know or seen Wilson play, but I've heard great things about him. And then when you have him and Robo in the night, that's pretty good goaltending for the SPHL. So I think a lot of times if you have two good goalies and you're getting solid goaltending most nights during the regular season, if you can get to 3 or more goals, you're going to be fine. And then you just sort of hope that like you're playing your best hockey come the playoffs. Because the one thing that's tough, but the Havoc last year did a great job about it. But because they're best of 3 series and sometimes with travel and trying to save on costs, a lot of times the home team doesn't play game 1 at home. And I joked with Ty and Stu when I saw them, but like that's what their team almost did the best last year in the playoffs is they won game 1, which puts all the pressure on the other teams.
The other day, Max Milasek, who you played with for many years, announced his retirement as well. And so I thought I would get your thoughts, too, about playing with Max. He was a very loved goalie and stuff down here. I mean, we as a family loved watching Max. What are some of those memories of playing with him?
I mean, first of all, he's a great guy, but he's definitely a goalie. Goalies are special, a little bit unique. I think one thing that I always appreciated about him was like his confidence. And that I just think that like being confident in yourself on the ice is extremely important because things aren't always going to go well and you have to be able to bounce back next shift, next period, or, at minimum next game, So I think his confidence and his swagger, I think his personality, I think when I think about him, I always think about sometimes you get like these cramps and you freak out. And then he's also, he always loved to say some like crazy things, like he'd be a top 5 puck handling goalie in professional hockey and all that stuff. Honestly, he was a really good guy, great teammate. He worked extremely hard in practice, which I really respected also because he wasn't just great when the lights were the brightest. Like he worked hard in practice. He cared in practice. Every shot he wanted to stop. And I think one of the things that I appreciate the most from when he was a teammate or when we were teammates is that I knew he can be counted on. I didn't have to or I wasn't worried when he was going in the net, which is, I don't know. I don't know if that's the best thing I can say about someone, but I do think a lot of times, like when your teammates or line mates are always like, oh, sometimes you're worried about people in this situation or this moment, or is this going to happen? And I think with Max, it was always like, no, like we're good no matter what he's doing or how he's feeling or what he's saying. Like he's going to go out there, he's going to give you his best. And a lot of times his best is better than the guy he's playing against on the other side.
I completely agree with you on that. I don't think there was ever a time when Max would end up in the net that as fans, we ever had a moment we we worried about that something, he wasn't going to get the job done or do or play to that potential, that top potential.
Yeah,
Okay.
He was definitely a competitor.
Yeah. Okay. So as we round this out, I was curious, you and Stu go way back. So I was curious if you have any really good stories about Stu, any that you'd be willing to share. You're laughing. So I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, I think, look, our relationship changed a little bit because I played with him for 2 years and he became assistant coach for 5 years. We were still close, but we were extremely close. Like when we were playing those 2 years, like quite a lot of lunches each week together, card games at the back of the bus. I think I got two good ones, I think I would say, and I think they're both fine. One was like one night, whatever happened to him, he just started getting the nickname like Hurricanes too. Like sometimes he'd get like a little bit like if he had a few too many at night, he'd go out of control and like go into people on the team's apartments and like just become a hurricane and turn everything upside down, the couches, the beds, and everything like that, the chairs. And then my other favorite story is the team was at a bar one time, and a lot of times, like I'm pretty casual, laid back, just sitting down, not relaxing, but sitting down, talking, enjoying the environment. And Nolan and Stu were getting into it, but with each other. And they each had each other grabbed by their shirts. And like I was just, sitting there, like not giving it much attention. And then Kyle Sharkey tapped me on the shoulder and he's like, "Si, I need your help." And Sharkey like had his glasses like half tilted up, and I had to get up from the bar stool and just separate Nolan and Stu. That's
hilarious. He doesn't act like that anymore, I would assume. Coach, he has to act different now, I guess, as the coach. So
Of course. This is when we were players, though, They're allowed to blow off steam and all that stuff.
I love that. We'll have to. Well, maybe somebody in the fans will get a Hurricane Stu sign and show up there, and he'd probably have a fit if he saw that.
He probably wouldn't be happy, but I think there'd be quite a few of us that got a good laugh out of it.
So when you're back in town this weekend for the big ceremony, when it's all over with, where are you going to watch the game?
Good question. I probably have quite a few family members coming to town, so maybe I'll go. I think they're going to be in one of the suites up top there, so maybe I'll go watch with them a little bit. I'll probably go stand next to Becky and Keith a bit. I think I'll probably make my rounds. I know there's some people I got to see, and it's probably the easiest to see them a little bit while the game's going on, especially when I know where they sit and all that stuff. So I think I'll probably move a little bit all over.
Well, good. Well, I know there's going to be a lot of fans that are excited to see you. A lot of kids that look up to you that have enjoyed watching you. I think that's something that you guys sometimes forget, that you guys have some boys and girls that just love watching you guys. You guys are little heroes to those kids. And so I know there's going to be a lot. They're going to be excited to see some of their favorite players, especially you back, even though you're not playing, that you will be there for that ceremony. I'm looking forward to seeing that too, and hope that you enjoy every moment of getting to see your name and your jersey hung in the rafters forever. Final thoughts on that process? Final thoughts on that?
I'm just really appreciative of, Becky and Keith and Glenn and Juice and, everyone with the Havoc for, getting this honor and being, like I said, getting appreciated and getting to share it with my family and all that stuff. And not something I take lightly. And I'm very excited about the weekend. I know my family's excited too. And I think it's something that it doesn't happen often. You don't know a ton of people at whatever level it's going to be that get their jersey retired.
Well, this really cool problem is that it's happening a lot, it seems, in Huntsville, but it's happening for the right reasons. The people that are up there, they're being honored for their legendary work that they've done with the organization and as a player and those stats. One day somebody will beat those stats, but it's going to be a while until they get there. And I think that's just a wonderful thing that you're going to get to celebrate that. And it's going to be something that's long term. So congratulations from us at the podcast on getting that honor in the Von Braun.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Well, everybody, we have another hockey game coming up. We're full in the season. We've just started. And, you never know what happens from week to week. But this coming up weekend, you guys, Cy's going to be back in the Von Braun. You'll get to see that wonderful ceremony and, add yet another accolade to the ceiling of the Von Braun Center. So, Cy, thank you so very much for stopping by and chatting real quick. We really appreciate it.
No problem. My pleasure. We'll see everyone this weekend.
Yes, and hockey fans, as I always say, stay sharp in the slot and keep reeking of Huntsville Havoc hockey. We'll see you next time.
The Reekin Havoc Podcast.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Join us now for Huntsville's greatest hits, where current and former players recount their most memorable dropping of the gloves.
Former Havoc forward Mike DeGurse.
I think my favorite fight was when I was playing for Winston-Salem, and Huntsville had a guy by the name of Craig Cox on their team. And he was a wily veteran coming on the downswing of his career, and I was just 20 years old coming into the pro ranks. And being a Detroit Red Wings fan, Craig Cox, when he played in the NHL, used to have some amazing fights with Bob Probert in the Joe Louis Arena. So when I played against Coxie, I asked him if he wanted to have one, and he blew me off for the first half of the year, and then in the playoffs, he finally dropped the gloves and gave me a little lesson there. So that was a fun fight, and I was pretty excited to be able to trade some shots with a legend like Craig Cox.
We'll be back with the Reekin Havoc Podcast.
In June of 2005, our twin girls were delivered, Melissa and Ann Catherine, and they were born 14 weeks early.
Amy and Chris George talk about the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund.
They both weighed less than 2 pounds. Ann Catherine was 115 and Melissa was 1'9". Melissa lived for a couple of hours, but all of the medical technology in the world just could not have saved her, and she passed away while she was in the NICU. Chris realized pretty early that God had given us a platform that we could use to try to help people. So Chris and I started the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund at Huntsville Hospital.
To know that Melissa's name is living on, her legacy continues. And I think that was very important to Amy and I, is why, the fund is named after her. Because for 7 weeks, Melissa fought so that Ann Catherine would have a chance to live. And I think that we wouldn't be doing her name any justice if we didn't carry on, because we know we wanted to honor her and honor her legacy. And the community, Huntsville Havoc, the community in Huntsville itself, they've rallied around that. And it's been a wonderful support system for us. And I think for a lot of families too, when they see total strangers that are giving.
We're online at HuntsvilleHospitalFoundation.org. Click on the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund, and you can give that way.
There's no donation that's too small, and every dollar is just as important as the next one. And if you're giving, then we understand you're giving because you care. And that's what's important, is that we've learned over the years that people give because they care.
And you can volunteer. If you're interested in that, you can click on the volunteer tab to fill out an application. We are grateful for any type of support, because we know that once we pull those dollars together, we can do big things.
For more information on the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund, visit HuntsvilleHospitalFoundation.org.
Hey, this is Jeremy Gervais, and you're listening to the Reekin Havoc Podcast.
The Havoc will meet up with Evansville both nights this weekend, Friday on the road and coming back home for Saturday's small dog races. Huntsville dropped their first meeting with the Thunderbolts 3-2 in overtime back on Saturday. The first annual School Day Showcase will be Wednesday, February 26th. It's an inter-squad game and skills competition starting at 10:30 a.m., incorporating educational elements to provide a unique learning experience for students. Tickets are $15 and include a free ticket to any home game in March, with the exception of the 29th, with 2 free tickets per class for teachers and or chaperones. For more information, go online to HuntsvilleHavoc.com and click on School Day Showcase. All Havoc tickets are now digital and can be accessed through a mobile device. Go online to HuntsvilleHavoc.com and under the Tickets tab, click on Mobile Ticketing. Keep in mind, too, that the VBC is a cashless venue. Concession stands or bars will not accept cash, and Chuck-a-Puck purchase is only available online. Go to the Fan Zone tab at HuntsvilleHavoc.com and click on Auctions Powered by Dash. Be aware of the VBC's clear bag only policy for Havoc games. This includes no clutch purses, fanny packs, and diaper bags. Exceptions to the policy will be made for all medically necessary items after proper inspection. For more information, plus a list of prohibited items, go to HuntsvilleHavoc.com and under the Fan Zone tab, click Security. Remember, if you're a season ticket holder, doors will open at 5:30 p.m. and remain open until puck drop. You can enter through the doors in the hallway adjacent to the Havoc front office and VBC box office.
If you love the Huntsville Havoc, leave us a voicemail with your name, how long you've been a fan, and even some of your favorite players. Call 256-434-RKKN. That's 256-434-7556.
The Reekin Havoc Podcast.
For those returning from military service, the transition back to civilian life isn't always easy. Retired Marine Gunnery Sergeant Bill Cook talks about still serving veterans.
The mission of Still Serving Veterans is to serve and honor veterans and their families by empowering them to build meaningful lives. And we do that through connecting to fulfilling careers, getting the benefits they deserve, or the services that they need. We have never charged anybody anything for our services. A group of business leaders in town felt there was a need to help the seriously wounded make that transition back into civilian life. Employment services, VA benefits, and connections to other community services. That's what we do. If you're a veteran and you need help, please get a hold of us. Go to that website, ssv.org, and you can find out pretty much anything you need to know about still serving veterans.
In Huntsville, call 256-883-7035. For tickets, official Huntsville Havoc merchandise, and more, go to HuntsvilleHavoc.com. Visit our website at ReekinHavoc.com. Look for us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Threads. And listen, follow, and subscribe to the Reekin Havoc podcast on your favorite platform to keep up with the only weekly podcast covering the Huntsville Havoc, the Reekin Havoc podcast.